started listening to you. I'm divorced after 2 years ago, and my daughter has been going back and forth between my home and her father's. And at first, before I was listening to you, it was beyond painful. And I brought a lot of negativity to her because I was tapping into her suffering and her pain that I was worried about her feeling, and all I brought was more suffering and more pain.
It's all right.
And then I started shifting after listening to you, amplifying the good within me, amplifying the good within her.
And acknowledging the value of the variety that she gets to live at an early age. The data collection that's going on with her will really serve her well. She has an opportunity of watching the way two significant people live their lives.
Yes.
That's big.
Yes, and I've listened to your talks on that, and to say they have been life-saving is an understatement in the midst of difficulty. The issue I'm dealing with now is I sometimes feel like I'm a Disney character at home, bopping around, being really happy no matter what, trying. I guess that's the problem. I'm trying, like, keep my vibration high, be positive, let her be in her moods, and she's an adolescent, so she's in her own state. And I feel like we've become a little bit like characters. I'm in the house, like, positive, I love you, you're amazing no matter what, you're acting horrible, but I love you no matter what, like, all of that vibration, and I'm doing this under, with love and with care, and I don't know if that outside voice of maybe I'm doing this wrong is incorrect. I'm not sure, I'm struggling with that.
So let's talk about this, and we're happy that you brought up the subject that we were talking about, because this is a good way to approach this. So just relax, this will be easy and beneficial. You implied something that's important. You just can't fake it, because your point of attraction isn't upon the way you're appearing to be, and your point of attraction isn't even about the way somebody else perceives you as you appear to be. Your point of attraction is about what your vibration is, and your vibration is indicated to you by how you feel. So if you feel like you're faking it, then you are, and so that's not getting you very far. Now, we will acknowledge that we're just going to ask you what you would prefer. You can play along too if you want to. Would you rather be around someone who was tuned in, tapped in, turned on, or someone who was under the influence of something other than source energy?
The first.
Obvious. All right, so in a world of observation, which you're all part of manifestations, so you're part of the manifestation of your home, and so is your little one. You're both under the influence of each other to some degree. So would you prefer, if you were standing in your child's shoes, would you prefer a mother who is depressed or a mother who is happy?
Happy.
Would you prefer a mother who is depressed and pretending to be happy, or a mother who is depressed and acting depressed?
Me? I want depressed pretending to be happy.
Yeah, wouldn't anybody? Path of least resistance. Is that a bad choice? Is it wrong to pretend that you're happy even though you're not? Or is that just the best choice you can make from where you are? So then let's take this a little deeper. Now we're going beyond just dealing with life as it comes and doing the best to cope with it. So would you yourself rather taste the sweetness of non-resistant thought, or never know what that feels like?
Taste non-resistant.
Would you rather attempt meditation and allowing your vibration to rise, or would you rather just take life as it comes and have knee-jerk responses to it?
The first.
Would you rather that your child read a book with all of the wisdom in the world in it, or watch real life experience of someone learning to utilize their own guidance system?
The latter.
Would you rather feel your negative emotion or not know that you're vibrating in discord with what you want?
First.
Would you rather feel your negative emotion and pretend like it isn't and confuse your child? Or would you rather feel your negative emotion and respond to it the way negative emotion feels? Would you like your child to understand that you are learning your way? Or would you like her to believe that you know all of the answers already? Would you like her to understand how to experience life in her little body with her emotions? Or would you rather that she thinks that you're perfect and that she's failing?
The latter.
Would you like to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on 100% of the time? Or would you like to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on most of the time?
Realistically? Second.
No, not realistically.
Okay, the
choice.
first.
Choice.
All the time.
Oh, get real. Would you rather experience contrast or have no contrast?
Contrast.
Do you believe that contrast clarifies desire, or do you believe that contrast hinders desire?
Clarifies.
It does both, but the clarification is the big thing about it. Do you believe that contrast or attention to contrast is a permanent state, or do you believe that if you catch it early, you have the power to change it?
Catch it early. Yeah.
Did you feel a sort of opening in all of that? Sort of letting yourself off the hook just a little bit? Can you give us an example of a situation where you're feeling some resistance? And let us together find ways to approach that where resistance can be let go of a little bit and a little bit and a little bit. Something that's common or something that's big when it happens.
So her dad, with his new family, he calls every evening for her when she's with me. So the night, and we do the same, so that she gets to hear from the other parent when she's with the other parent. So when
the reason for that is,
yeah,
I'll screw up your day and you can screw up mine. Like how this is, and I'm going to punctuate it with this phone call.
Yep. That's been a question. We started off doing this thinking it was the best thing for her, and lately I've been wondering if it is, because it is an interruption, just as you said.
Let's walk through this. Let's see if we can find something. Now, we know that nothing ever always feels one way or another, but just generally speaking, are those phone calls when he calls your house or when you call his house, are those phone calls something that you feel eager about?
So that was my example, is when he calls, I'm the one that picks up the phone and gives it to her. And when the phone calls, I'm like, oh no, okay, sweetie, here's the phone, here's data. It's like, it's acting.
Well, but is it better than, here's your rat bastard father?
Of course.
Be nice to him. This is getting to the heart of what we are talking about. The subject feels like, should we call or should we not call? But beneath that is another much more important question. Should we feel good when we call or feel bad when we call? And then the next question is, can I control the way I feel in these calls? And if you really cannot control the way you feel, then this is the question that we have for you. What's the path of least resistance? So now let's back up through that. Is the path of least resistance, does it feel to you that the path of least resistance, now what is the path of least resistance? The path of least resistance is the path in which it is more likely that you will be with your inner being than not, because it's the path of most allowance. And what are you allowing? Connection with your inner being. And so if you ask yourself the question, what's the path of least resistance here? Is the path of least resistance, if it were happening today, is the path of least resistance to allow the call to happen or to stop it? What's the path of least resistance?
Allow the call to happen.
Yeah. So now you've allowed the call to happen. Now the call's about to happen. What time is it going to happen?
It's every evening.
What time?
Every evening.
At about
7 o'clock.
It's coming up about 7 o'clock. So is the path of least resistance to wait for the call to come, even though you know it's going to come, and have the knee-jerk reaction that you always have and then fake it? Or is the path of least resistance to get yourself into a place of feeling pretty good about the call coming. What's the path of least resistance?
Get pretty good.
If the path of least resistance is to get feeling better about it, then which of these things that you might be thinking have more or less resistance in them? I really don't want to do this. Or, well, we all thought this was a good idea, that we stay in close contact. Which has less resistance?
The latter.
Which has less resistance in it? I don't want her to talk to them, and I don't think she wants to talk to them. Or, relationships are eternal. We're always going to be a family. It's nice to look for each other's positive aspects. Which is the path of least resistance?
Absolutely the latter.
Now, here's what we were getting at earlier. We're not asking you which is the most true. We're not asking you what you've accomplished so far. We're asking you, what's the path of least resistance? The psychologist would say, oh, well, we've written these books that this is a good idea. And other psychologists would say, well, we've written these books that this isn't a good idea. And we say, we're not asking what anybody thinks in terms of the subject of whether it's a good idea or not. We're only asking, can I bring myself to a place that this feels good to me when I do it? Because when you make a decision and line up with the decision, now you're tuned in, tapped in, turned on. So either do it and feel good about it, or don't do it and feel good about it, but don't do it and feel bad about it, or not do it and feel bad about it. Because the subject is alignment, not the phone call. What you're teaching your child is alignment, not whether to call daddy or not. That seems like what the big debate is. Let's debate it across the world. Should we call or should we not call? That seems like the subject. No, the subject is, should we feel good when we do something, or should we feel bad when we do something? And then the next question is, do I have the ability to feel good? Or does this subject automatically mean I can't feel good? Is that what this subject means? Under these conditions, I cannot feel good, but I'm trapped like a rat because I have to do something that doesn't feel good. Oh, that feels awful. And so then what are you radiating to the children? To all of the children, what are you radiating? We do things we don't want to do because it's the right thing to do. What are we teaching our children? We pay no attention to the way we feel. We don't play the big game of alignment. Instead, we play the little game of phone call or no phone call. It doesn't matter whether you make the phone call or whether you don't make the phone call. What matters is that you will be true to yourself. And you know who you are? You are a lover, not a hater. Somebody doesn't even need to be lovable for you to be able to love them. You love because that's who you are. You love because you are a lover. And to do otherwise separates you. So now let's go back to the subject of it's time for the phone call. And in the beginning it might be a little rough, but you can catch up with it. So it's about time either to receive or to make the phone call. Have an hour maybe. And so you ask yourself, am I a lover or a hater?
Lover.
Are there positive aspects over there in that house, or no positive aspects over there in that house?
Lots.
Do I want my daughter to love what's there or hate what's there? Would I rather teach her love or tension? Would I rather teach her love or hate? Would I rather teach her alignment or not alignment? Do words teach? Or do I teach only through the clarity of my example? So is there anything, when you're thinking in terms of the path of least resistance, more important than making that phone call and making sure you feel good about it before you make it?
No.
Can you imagine handing her the phone and saying, hey honey, it's daddy. He loves you so much. Hey honey, it's daddy. He loves you so much. Hey honey, it's daddy. So the path of least resistance is coming into alignment with who you are. This was the best opportunity to amplify what we were talking about earlier, because the subject seems like it's the phone call, but it isn't. The subject is alignment. The subject seems like it's split families. It isn't. It's families. It's alignment. Helpful?
Very.
Want to take anything else?
I'm good. Thank you.